The Warring States period would end with the Qin state's conquest of all other states, unifying China in 221 BC and forming that land's first unified empire. Though as fate would have it, the brutality of unifying the land by Qin would come back to haunt it by the death of the first emperor's son, leading to its collapse. In the ashes of Qin, Han would arise with Liu Bang at the forefront. After years of corruption by administrations unconcerned with the future, Han would collapse and warlords would fight for its remains. Qin Shi Huang, who lived from 259 to 10 BC, was the son of Zhuangshang, the king of Qin. First, to refer to himself as emperor, Huangdi, rather than king, Wang, and became king of Qin in 246 BC. His history can be found today from Sima Qian's Records of the Grand Historian. He was known as being a bastard child unrelated to the previous king, leading most throughout history to have a lowly opinion of him. In his youth, he would face multiple assassination attempts from both domestic and foreign adversaries. Beginning in 230 BC, he would begin his conquest of the other Chinese states, culminating in 221 with the unification of the land. Upon conquering the land, he would institute a common currency, administrative divisions, and a banning of all philosophies other than legalism. His eldest son, Fusu, would criticize his father's decision to burn historical texts. Due to the banning of Confucianism by the state, Confucianists would distance themselves from Qin, which in turn solidified their position of power after the Qin collapse. He would commission the building of the Great Wall and Lingkou Canal. His exact cause of death is unknown, though it has been speculated that due to his search for an elixir of eternal life that he would ingest a poisonous amount of mercury. Qin Shi, who lived from 231-222 to 207 BC, was the son of Qin Shi Huang, second and last emperor of the Qin Dynasty. After the death of the previous emperor's general, Meng Tian, and heir, Fusu, who had been ordered by a forged imperial will to commit suicide, Premier Li Si and chief eunuch Zhao Gao would appoint Qin Shi as the second emperor. The puppet emperor would begin his reign of terror by ordering his 3 brothers to commit suicide. Mass revolts and banditry would arise upon his ascension to the throne. This civil unrest would not be answered by the incompetent son of the first emperor. By 207 BC, Qin had lost the Battle of Julu against Chu. He would attempt to order the death of his general Zheng Han and successfully gave the orders to have 200,000 of his own troops buried alive, resulting in a lose of 300,000 Qin men. After a loyal eunuch told the emperor that he had no more spare troops, Qin questioned him why he had not been told sooner. The eunuch replied that Qin had been executing all who had told him truths in the past. Cornered by Zhao Gao, he would commit suicide and be succeeded by the alleged son of Fusu, Ziying, who had been demoted to the rank of king. 1 year later, Ziying surrendered to Liu Bang. Gaozu lived from 256 to 195 BC and was the son of Liu Taigong. He was the first emperor of the Han Dynasty. Born of a peasant family, Liu would begin his career as a minor law enforcement officer in Pei County in the former Chu state. On his way to the forced labor construction site of the first emperor's mausoleum with prisoners, he decided to free them and become their leader. In 209 BC, he, with the supports of the local peasants of Pei County, would become the unofficial Duke of Pei. By 208 BC, he would be made Marquis of Wu'an and subjugate Qin, thus re-establishing law and order. As King of Han, he would face the King of Chu, surviving several assassination attempts and defeating him in several battles. Upon consolidating his rule of all China, Liu would reinvigorate the economy, establish Confucianism as the primary philosophy of governance, and pacify the northern barbarians. wounds. He would die from his injuries after being struck by a stray arrow during his campaign against Ying Bu, the king of Huainan that was rebelling against him. He would be succeeded by his second son, Liu Ying. Hui would live from 210 to 188 BC and was the second son of Gaozu. During his father's reign, he would administrate the government with his mother while his father was away. He was initially known as being kind and generous, as he would end the burning of books and burying alive of scholars. Due to his failure of protecting his younger half-brother from his murderous mother, the Empress Dowager Lu, Hui would drown himself in women and drink. Dying without children with his wife, he would be succeeded by Liu Gong and later Liu Hong, who are believed to have either been adopted or been related to Hui via concubines. Qianshao would live from 193 to 184 BC as the son of Hui. Very little is actually known of his life, as he had died relatively young. Sometime in 184 BC, he would discover that he was not the actual son of the current Empress Dowager Jiang, and that his real mother had been put to death. After being overheard that he would seek vengeance on those who took his mother's life when he would get older, his grandmother, the Grand Empress Dowager Lu, would secretly imprison him, and soon after put him to death. He would be succeeded by his brother Liu Yi, who would in turn change his name to Liu Hong. Hu Shao would live from 196 to 180 BC as the son of Hui, with an unremarkable reign of 4 years as Grand Empress Dowager Lu's puppet. By 180 BC, at the death of his owner, he would find that he had no actual power, as the Lu clan had monopolized all of it. The officials of the imperial government, led by Chen Ping and Zhou Bo, would proceed to slaughter the Lu clan and kill the puppet emperor, replacing him with his uncle, Prince Liu Heng of Dai. Wen would live from 203 or 202 to 157 BC as the son of Gaozu. Being the Prince of Dai, a region on the border with the Xiongnu barbarians, he would gain a wealth of knowledge of Xiongnu customs and military strategies. With his coronation, stability was brought to the empire and brought a prosperous reign that would continue on with his son. He is noted for his tax policy, legal reforms, and willingness to listen to the advice of meritocratic subject matter experts. His adherence to Confucianism was displayed with his rule that emphasized Confucius doctrines of the importance of agriculture and filial piety. He would be succeeded by his oldest son, Liu Qi, whom he would entrust the military general Zhou Yafu as his protector. Jing would live from 188 to 141 BC as the eldest son of Wen. Jing would continue his father's policy of non-molestation of the people, but would work to massively centralize power to the imperial court. In 154 BC, he would put down the semi-autonomous regional kings in a war known as the Rebellion of the Seven States. After the war had concluded, the court was wrought with intrigue due to the matter of succession, ultimately leading to him disinheriting his presumptive heir. In the later part of his reign, he would be remembered for having Zhou Yafu, the former prime minister, commit suicide in prison. He would be remembered for furthering the study of Taoism. Wu would live from 156 to 87 BC as the 11th son of Jing. He is the longest reigning ethnic Chinese emperor. Is often seen as being one of, if not the best emperors to rule, due to his strong leadership and effective admiration of the nation. He would officiate Confucianism as the state philosophy and ethical code, as well as spread it to neighboring nations. Following the advice of Confucian scholars, he would reform the nation and institute anti-nepotistic laws to centralize power and eliminate its abuses. Han would see the largest amount of territorial expansion under his rule, nearly tripling the empire's size in all directions. A highly superstitious man, he would become paranoid and resentful of others over time, castrating the historian Sima Qian for his less than pleasant commentary of Wu's father. Beginning in 96 BC, he is noted as beginning to suffer from hallucinations and issued trials for witchcraft, leading to the death of his son and heir, the Crown Prince Zhu. Wu would apologize to the entire nation for his past mistakes and installed the policies and ideals that his deceased son had petitioned for. He would be buried in the Miaoling Mound, which would be looted by the Red Eyebrows peasant rebellion nearly a century later. Zhao would live from 94 to 74 BC as the son of Wu. Court intrigue would plague much of Zhao's reign. In terms of general domestic and foreign issues, his reign would largely be uneventful. The people would prosper from his lowering of taxes, and Han influence would expand with the conquest of the Tucharian kingdom of Laolan, which would be renamed Shanshan by the Han. Due to dying without a son, he would be initially succeeded by Prince He of Changyi, who would be deposed less than a month later and replaced with Liu Bang. Xuan would live from 91 to 48 BC as the great-grandson of Wu. A dedicated and benevolent ruler, Xuan would relate to the common man and aid them in their struggle for survival. He would issue meritocratic rewards and only employ the most capable in government. His judgments on court cases were considered just, and he was seen as a good judge of character, going so far as to extermination of the corrupt Huo family that had plagued the court since the death of Wu. The historian Sima Guang would criticize Xuan as ungrateful for this action, as without Huo Guang's direct actions, Xuan himself would not have been made emperor so easily. Xuan would reject the search for immortality that so many emperors bankrupted the state in search for. Through peaceful measures, he would make the barbarian Xiongnu submit to him. It is noted that he was disappointed in Crown Prince Shi's lack of independence and over-reliance on Confucian officials, but he did not have the heart to replace him. Prior to his death, he would have portraits of key officials painted in the main imperial palace. Yuan would live from 75 to 33 BC as the son of Xuan. Emperor Yuan promoted Confucianism as the official creed of the Chinese government. He appointed Confucius adherents to important government posts. However, at the same time that he was solidifying Confucianism's position as the official ideology, the empire's condition slowly deteriorated. Due to his indecisiveness, his inability to stop factional infighting between officials in his administration, and the trust he held in certain corrupt officials. In terms of foreign affairs, Yuan would befriend the Xiongnu barbarians, strengthening both parties. In his later years, Yuan would contemplate replacing his heir, Prince Ao, with the more capable Prince Kang. Though on his deathbed, he would rebuke these thoughts and the crown prince would remain as successor. Cheng would live from 51 to 7 BC as the son of Yuan. The Han Dynasty would continue to decline as the emperor's maternal relatives, the Wang clan, increased their control over the courts. Corruption and greed from government officials brought about mass revolts throughout the land. Cheng would die of either a stroke or overdose of aphrodisiacs without a son, as the two that had been born would be killed by the orders of his favorite consort and former dancing girl Zhou Heidi, supposedly under his own direction. He was succeeded by his nephew, whom he had made crown prince the year prior. Ai would live from 27 to 1 BC as the nephew of Cheng. Initially excited at the belief that Ai would be a good leader due to being seen as intelligent, well-spoken, and capable, the nation would soon see mass corruption and abuse which had never been seen before. The court would become factionalized by the current and previous empresses that remained from the previous emperors. Ai would strip clans of their power, only to give it to other clans. The people would consolidate their hatred against Ai when he ordered for his prime minister Wang Jia, unrelated to the Wang clan, be executed, thus leading the people to view the government as tyrannical and in turn illegitimate, which would lead to Wang Mang seizing power after Ai died. Ai was well known for being a big-time homosexual, namely with Dong Xian, whom he appointed to being the most powerful official commander of the armed forces in the imperial administration. After Ai died, Dong would be stripped of his authority and eventually commit suicide. Wang Mang would have Dong buried in the prison and exile his clan to Hepu in modern Zhanjiang, Guangdong. Ping would live from 9 BC to AD 6 as the nephew of Cheng and cousin of Ai. 11th and last official emperor from the Western Han Dynasty. After Ai's death, he would be succeeded by his 8-year-old cousin Liu Kan under the regent Wang Mang and the Grand Empress Dowager Wang. In AD 3, Wang Meng's son Wang Yu conspired with the Wei clan to overthrow the government, but would be put to death along with most of his father's political enemies. Fearing Ping would avenge his uncles, Wang would have him poisoned and replaced with the infant emperor Ruzi. Ruzi would never officially become emperor, and was instead given the title of Crown Prince, with Wang Mang as acting emperor. Wang would create the Qin Dynasty, noted for being cruel and highly corrupt. This usurping kingdom would last until AD 23. When the Gengshi Emperor re-established the Han Dynasty, Wang would be cut up into pieces and his head would eventually be put in a court vault, until it was destroyed in a fire during the Qin Dynasty. Guangwu would live from 5 BC to AD 57, and was the 6th generation descendant of Jing, as well as the first of the Eastern Han Dynasty. After being appointed as one of the generals and under the Gengshi Emperor in AD 23, he would come to become the Marquis of Wuxin, after his brother, Liu Ji, had been executed by the Gengshi Emperor who wished to make peace with him. By AD 25, with the urging of his loyalists, he would proclaim himself emperor. What would follow would be a lifelong campaign of reconquest against rival claimants and barbarian tribes. He would be succeeded by his 4th son, Liu Zhuang. Ming would live from 28 to 75 as the 4th son of Guangwu. During his reign, Buddhism began. It spread into China. Known for his conscientiousness, Ming would establish a meritocratic administration, extend Han's borders over the Tarim Basin with General Ban Chao, and begin the golden age of the Eastern Han Empire, which would continue on with his son, Crown Prince Da. Jiang would live from 56 to 88 as the son of Ming. Much like his father, Jiang would improve Han governance by paying close attention to state affairs, reducing taxes, and promoting Confucian ethics. This in turn would allow his nation to see continued and improved prosperity. During his reign, Chinese troops under General Ban Chao traveled far west on the Silk Road while pursuing barbarian Xiongnu bandits harassing trade. Unlike his father, Jiang's successor would not bring prosperity to his nation, and the people would reminisce of the days which Ming and Jiang ruled. He would live from 79 to 106 as the son of Jiang. During his reign, the Eastern Han Dynasty began its decline. Strife between consort clans and eunuchs began a trend that would continue to escalate for the next century, and leading to the Han Dynasty collapse. Additionally, revolts spurred by corrupt and/or oppressive Han officials began to create major problems for the Han during Emperor He's reign and last until the reign of Emperor Ling. During his reign, the eunuch Kai Lun would invent paper in 105. His lack of capability in rulership and judgment of character would only aggravate his already troubled situation. A lack of heir, surviving for more than a year, brought additional strife in the courts, leading to a crisis of dynastic succession. Shang would live from 105 to 106 as the son of He. Despite having an older brother, Shang would be made emperor at barely 100 days of age. His rule, or lack thereof, identified the bureaucratic inefficiency of the Han government. He would die of illness and be buried in his father's tomb, rather than be given his own, as was custom for emperors. Yan would live from 94 to 125 as the grandson of Jiang and nephew of He. Though Shang's elder brother Sheng was still alive, Empress Dowager Deng decided to make his cousin Hu emperor instead. The Empress Dowager would remain as regent until her death in 121. Doing next to nothing to reinvigorate his dying nation, An would indulge in carnal pleasures and allow eunuchs and his wife's Yan clan to run rampant. This would mark him as the first Han emperor to encourage corruption. Massive droughts would ravage the nation, spurring peasant revolts. Falling ill on his way to Wanqing, modern Nanyang in Henan, An would decide to halt and turn back to Luoyang, but would die on his way there. Empress Yan would attempt to install An's cousin as the next emperor, who is said to have been far younger than the former crown prince. An's cousin would die later that year, and the court eunuchs, led by Sun Cheng, would install Prince Bao as emperor, and slaughter all the Yan clan with the Empress Dowager as the sole exception. Shun would live from 115 to 144 as the only son of An. After the reign of his incompetent and violent father, the people held great expectations for Shun. Shun's temperate personality lowered the abuses on the people, but his lack of agency in governance and allowing his wife's family to administrate for him only allowed corruption to grow even larger. He was succeeded by his son. Chong would live from 143 to 145 as the only son of Shun. Ascending at the age of 1 and reigning for less than 6 months, Shun would be presided over by the Empress Dowager Liang and her brother Liang Ji. The Empress is described to have been upright in character, but put too much trust in her corrupt brother. This would cause the people to suffer. Zi would live from 138 to 146 as the great-great-grandson of Zhang and third cousin of Chong. Zi was remarkably intelligent, and he knew and was offended by the immense power Liang Ji had over the government, leading to him once commenting that Liang Ji was an arrogant general. This act of defiance angered Liang Ji, who proceeded to poison the emperor. Huan lived from 132 to 168 as the great-grandson of Zhang. After Emperor Zhi was poisoned to death by the powerful official Liang Ji in 146, Liang Ji persuaded his sister, the regent empress Dowager Liang, to make the 14-year-old Liu Ji, the Marquis of Liwu, who was betrothed to their sister Liang Nuying, emperor. As the years went by, Emperor Huan, offended by Liang Ji's autocratic and violent nature, became determined to eliminate the Liang family with the help of eunuchs. Emperor Huan succeeded in removing Liang Ji in 159, but this only caused an increase in the influence of these eunuchs over all aspects of the government. Corruption during this period had reached a boiling point. In 166, university students rose up in protest against the government and called on Emperor Huan to eliminate all corrupt officials. Instead of listening, Emperor Huan ordered the arrest of all students involved. Emperor Huan has largely been viewed as an emperor who might have had some intelligence but lacked wisdom in governing his empire, and his reign contributed greatly to the downfall of the Eastern Han Dynasty. According to the Book of Later Han, Roman envoys would meet with Huan. Ling lived from 156 to 189 as the great-great-grandson of Zhang through his sixth son, Liu Kai. Ling's reign would see the peak of eunuch corruption in the government. Zhang Rang, leader of the eunuch faction, would defeat the Empress Dowager Dao's father, Dao Wu, and the Confucian scholar official Chen Fan in 168 in influencing the emperor. Uninterested in presiding over state matters, he would indulge himself in carnal pleasures. This in turn lead to corrupt officials to levy heavy taxes on the people and sell government offices. After suffering form corruption for years on end, the Yellow Turban Rebellion would occur in 184. After the rebellion's leaders had been killed the following year, Ling further indulged his vices, appointing many of his favorited officials to offices, and in turn created further court intrigue. In 189, Ling would fall ill and fail to decide a successor between his two surviving sons, Liu Si, who was supported by the eunuch Jian Shuo, and Liu Bian, who was supported by General-in-Chief He Jin. After a failed assassination attempt on He Jin declared Liu Bian emperor. Shao lived from 176 to 190 as the son of Ling. Ruling briefly, he would be poisoned by the warlord Dong Zhuo, who would in turn replace him with his younger half-brother. Xian lived from 181 to 234 as the son of Ling and half-brother of Shao. 14th and last of the Eastern Han Dynasty. During his youth, Xian would be passed around as puppet emperor by various warlords, until 195, when Cao Cao held him for protection. Using Xian to bolster his legitimacy, Cao Cao would see success in reining in the warlords of China. This success would grind to a halt when he lost the Battle of Red Cliffs against an alliance of Sun Quan and Liu Bei, leading to an era of three kingdoms, Wei, Shu, and Wu. After Cao Cao's death in late 220, His son Cao Pi would force Emperor Xian to abdicate the throne to him, marking an official end for the Han Dynasty. Liu Xi would live the rest of his life in comfort and preferential treatment as the Duke of Shanyang.